You step into the Wild West where the sun scorches your skin like a branding iron and the dust clings to your soul as much as your boots. This ain't a place for dreamers or dandies, it's a crucible of grit, where survival means blending into the chaos of the 19th century frontier. You want to make it through, start with your clothes, because out here, a wrong stitch can get you buried faster than a bad bluff. Forget the polished boots and starched shirts of the East. They scream "rob me" louder than a saloon brawl at midnight. You need gear that's been through hell, torn patch stained with sweat, and maybe a splash of blood from a fight you didn't start but damn well finished. Your coat should smell of tobacco, gunpowder, and secrets nobody dares ask about. Browns greys anything that looks like it's been dragged through a stampede that's your palette. A bright blue vest might as well paint a target on your chest. Some jealous drifter will put a bullet through it just for spite. Boots gotta be scuffed to stone maybe with a hole to prove you've walked through perdition and kept going. A hat's non-negotiable, weather-beaten brim sagging like it's seen too many storms. Too tall and you're begging for mockery. Too small and you're a kid playing gunslinger. Tie a bandana loose like you filtered river muck with it, not like you're reciting love poems to a barmaid. And if you're carrying a rusty knife or flask, let it show you've survived, or you're too stubborn to die. Out here, looking important is a death sentence. Look like you've lost a fight and you might just win the war to see another dawn. You walk into a saloon, the air thick with whiskey fumes and suspicion, and every eye flicks to you like a rattlesnake's tongue. Words are dangerous here, bullets you can't take back. Run your mouth about being the fastest draw in Missouri, and you'll find a knife in your ribs before the bartender pours your second drink. Understate everything like your life depends on it, because it does. Someone asks if you can shoot, shrug, muster a little, even if you've outgunned half a posse. Been in a gunfight. Not recently, you say, though. Your scars tell a different tale. Bragging's an invitation to a public humbling, usually with blood on the floor. Don't stare, not at the sheriff, not at the outlaw nursing his drink, and definitely not at the one-eyed bastard with 3 knives and a grin like death's own shadow. Stare at your whiskey. Make sure it ain't crawling with something alive. And horses don't even glance at one too long. Touching a man's steed is like kissing his sister, either a challenge or a prelude to a funeral. Keep your head down, your words short, like nice weather or passable beans. Say you're handy with a gun and you'll be proving it while bleeding out. The Wild West don't reward loudmouths. It favours the shadow who slips out the door, name-forgotten face, a blur leaving nothing but dust and a half-empty glass behind. You ride into the haze of a frontier town, the sun beating down like a hammer on an anvil. Your throat parched and your senses sharp for the whisper of danger. The Wild West is littered with settlements, some bursting with false promises of gold and glory, others decaying under the weight of forgotten dreams, and picking the wrong one means your bones might bleach in the sun, picked clean by vultures circling like opportunistic lovers. Steer clear of any place calling itself lively. That's just code for midday shootouts where blood soaks the dirt and burials happen before the supper bell tolls. If the welcome sign's riddled with bullet holes and a lone buzzard perches like a grim sentinel, turn your horse around before the intrigue of hidden fortunes lures you into a trap of betrayal and blade. You're hunting for quiet, not deathly silence, just a spot where folks are too weary from the relentless heat to stir up trouble, too dust-choked to give chase if you slip away under moonlight. But maybe that forbidden thrill calls to you the siren song of a boom town where the population swells like a fever and crimes multiply in the shadows of hastily built saloons. Gold rushes promise riches, but they deliver moral decay, whispers of secret pacts among miners, a stolen glance turning into a knife in the dark over a disputed claim, bodies piling up behind the bar where envy festers like an open wound. If stability tempts you, head for railroad stops with churches and mayors, but beware the preacher might deal poker by night. The sheriff's badge hides fresh scars from duels, and the air hums with unspoken intrigues, where a lordly figure's sadistic grip on the town sparks quiet rebellions among the peasants of the prairie. Before planting roots, probe the undercurrents more graves than homes. Folks reaching for holsters instead of handshakes. Coffins stacked like canned goods in the store ride-on. For the ideal town isn't gilded with wealth or romance. It's where you're invisible, no questions about your past, no assumptions. You're the ghost of a man they meant to hang. Here survival weaves through the sensual haze of a stolen kiss in a hayloft amid the frost of dawn, or the visceral snap of a bone in a tavern brawl over scraps all tied by threads of deception that could unravel into bloodshed at any moment. You collapse onto the hard-packed earth after a day of riding through blistering winds, your body aching like it's been dragged behind a wild Mustang, but sleep in the Wild West is no gentle embrace. It's a gamble where closing your eyes invites the shadows to creep closer, whispering of bandits or beasts hungry for flesh. Think you're due a peaceful night that's optimism bordering on madness, a delusion west of the Mississippi where rest is roulette. A momentary surrender that could end with a knife at your throat or a lover's treacherous kiss turning to poison. Your horse might doze with eyes half open, ready to kick at threats, but you're vulnerable, exposed, every rustle in the dark, stirring visions of violence or forbidden desires that heat the blood even as the night chills your bones. Options are grim. The saloon floor historic and soaked in a decade of spilled whiskey, shattered teeth from brutal fistfights and blood from duels that ended in guttural cries. Share it with drunks and a mangy dog that might be dead or just plotting its next bite. No refunds if you wake to a prospector's unwanted hug, his breath reeking of desperation and decay. Or try a boarding house cot, cleanish with walls that echo every snore like a prelude to a knife fight locks as flimsy as a traitor's promise. Outdoors, nature's vast silence hides coyotes' howls, sudden storms lashing like a whip bandit's whispers, and something crawling over your skin with insidious intent. Perhaps a scorpion, or the ghostly touch of a forest spirit luring you to doom. Sleep like a cornered animal, one eye cracked hand on your revolver back to the wall to avoid silent robbery. Or worse, the sensual press of a betrayer's body before the blade slips in. If a voice murmurs your name in the haze of half-dreams, ignore it. Ghost hallucination or swindler peddling cursed land. Nap fiercely, 10 minutes behind a barrel heart pounding from the thrill of evasion. 15 in the saddle, your horse's rhythm a hypnotic sway. An hour in a jail cell feigning arrest to buy time. In this land of raw survival, rest is stolen in bursts laced with the intrigue of who might slit your throat for a hidden pouch of gold, or the violent clash of rivals over dwindling warmth, all under the empathetic stars that watch humans fight love and bleed with stubborn defiance. You kneel by the creek's edge, the sun glinting off the water like a deceptive lover's smile. But in the Wild West, every drop is a potential betrayer laced with disease that could twist your guts like a noose, or summon visions of spectral figures in the fevered night. That clear, gurgling stream, it's a graveyard of invisible horrors, bacteria swarming thicker than flies on a fresh kill shared by cowboys' sweat, cattle's filth bandits, hasty baths, and prospectors who've soaked in it since Lincoln's shadow loomed. Dip your cup raw, and you've swallowed the frontier's underbelly, a cocktail of rot that might leave you doubled over, hallucinating whispers of cursed relics buried nearby, or worse, drawing the predatory gaze of opportunists, sensing your weakness. Boil it if you can muster a fire and a pot amid the chaos, but peace is as rare as a unicorn in these parts. 10 minutes unguarded, and you risk a skirmish, blades flashing in the steam blood, mingling with the boil like a visceral sacrament. Most folks chug it down guts armoured by stubborn will, praying their insides hold against the onslaught. Or if you're flush or foolhardy, swap it for whiskey's deceptive burn, dehydrating fire that scorches your throat, numbs the thirst but ignites forbidden cravings. Perhaps a heated tangle in the shadows where breath mingles hot against the chill only to wake regretting the haze of betrayal. Rain. Elusive. Tease absent until it crashes like vengeance washing away your mule in a flood of mud and lost hopes, or pooling in a bucket where a squirrel's splash turns it foul. Wells promise purity but deliver peril, drying up like broken oaths, collapsing in sabotage during land feuds, where poison seeps in deliberate as a lover's knife in the dark. Offered a sip, probe how many drank yesterday and lived for water. Here's no ally, it's a seductive liar. Treacherous as a whispered intrigue, the last taste before a pine box claims you. Perhaps after a brutal clash over the final drop ribs, cracking under boots, or a supernatural chill from folklore spirits guarding hidden springs, You hunker over the campfire flames, licking the pot like tentative fingers in the dark, but food in the Wild West ain't for savouring. It's ammunition against starvation, cooked just enough to stave off immediate death, though sometimes the gamble fails, leaving you writhing from tainted bites. Your staples, beans biscuits, bacon, and the lies you tell yourself that it'll taste better tomorrow. Beans bubble eternally, pinto black, maybe enchanted, with a curse of endless repetition in a pot scarred by fires older than most vows, unseasoned save for suspicion that this bowl's haunted by yesterday's meal, perhaps laced with the subtle poison of a rival's grudge. Biscuits, edible rocks, warm if fortune smiles, otherwise weapons honed on stones to fend off coyotes or flung in brawls where bones snap like dry twigs. Soak 'em in coffee till they soften to mushy despair, or crunch through, ignoring the grit that grinds like unresolved betrayals. Bacon's the prize, salty, greasy strips that spark a momentary bliss, fats sizzling like forbidden whispers, but weeks of it clog your veins, birthing a rebellion in your chest, a visceral toll echoing the savagery of survival. Stew reigns supreme, mysterious cauldron, always simmering contents, unquestioned crunch, something odd chew on. If it twitches, feign ignorance for asking, invites, horrors like discovering it's not chicken, but something wilder, imagination-fueling tales of supernatural beasts stirred in. Dessert's a joke, hardtack dunked in rain or molasses, bartered for a boot's sticky sweet like a stolen kiss, amid the frost heat flaring against the cold. Pie rare, baked by devils or assassins, targeting lawmen, crust-hiding intrigue. Coffee philosophical ordeal, black as midnight, thick as betrayal, brewed in unwashed pots since the war, jolting you awake, clearing sinuses, erasing memories of the night's violences or sensual lapses. In this gritty feast, themes repeat hunger's defiance, the raw realism debunking tales of plenty where peasants of the plains wield cunning forks against lordly famine loving fiercely through the chew, fighting brutally for the last bite. You lean against your horse's flank, feeling the warmth of its hide seep through your worn shirt like a forbidden touch in the cold night, but in the Wild West this beast isn't mere transport. It's your confidant, your sentinel, your judge in a world where trust fractures like brittle bones under a boot. Mudded, unyielding, with eyes that pierce your soul like a lover's gaze, heavy with unspoken accusations, your horse senses peril before you do, its ears twitching at distant rustles that might herald bandits or the eerie whisper of forest spirits luring the unwary to doom. You've stumbled into canyons at dusk, blind to the buzzards circling overhead, but your mount halt snorts saving you from becoming carrion, its instinct sharper than any knife drawn in betrayal. Feed it oats and apple for a flicker of approval, but don't seek affection. This ain't a lapdog, but a 1,000-pound force that hauls you over jagged mountains through raging rivers swollen with storm's fury, straight into the maw of danger where violence erupts like thunder hooves, pounding as blades clash and blood freezes on the snow. Name it with gravity, Dustbite Widowmaker, or something solid like Jeff, not some sugary nonsense that invites ridicule. This creature outlasts friends, outlives romances tainted by intrigue, where a stolen kiss in the hayloft might end with a knife in the back over hidden gold. Brush its coat, inspect hooves for stones that could lame it mid-flight from pursuer's murmur. To it not for chit-chat, but to prove you're no fool, trust builds slow standards higher than a sheriff's noose. In this raw tapestry of survival, your horse embodies resilience, a thread weaving through the sensuality of shared warmth against the frost. The brutality of skirmishes where ribs crack and desires flare defiantly amid the chaos. You feel the weight of your pistol at your hip, cool metal pressing against your thigh like a lover's hand in the shadows. But in the Wild West, arming yourself ain't just defense. It's a mask of menace, a declaration that you're no easy prey in a land where vulnerability invites the wolves to circle. Unarmed, might as well stitch vulnerable on your hat, drawing robbers like moths to a flame, their eyes gleaming with predatory hunger. Skill's secondary. Most couldn't hit a barn from inside, but the illusion counts look ready to unleash hell, or at least foolish enough to try, and foes might hesitate, weighing the risk of blood spilling hot on the dust. Strap on a pistol, worn and scratched, maybe a screw loose to whisper of battles past, even if it's only seen your mirror poses practicing that steely glare. Hang it loose askew, a lazy promise of violence, not prim like a greenhorn's gift that screams bluff, adjusting theft timetables in your disfavour. Broke, a rusty knife suffices, not ornate but functional, flick it open now and then, staring into the horizon as if reliving trauma's complexity etched in your scowl. Still penniless, improvise, a sharpened spoon slingshot, nail-studded stick waved in negotiations, turning savage homemade instability adding edge. But remember, weapons are theatre, not invitation fights, erupt messy, loud odds stacked against you in a whirl of blades and betrayal where a political intrigue over claims escalates to gunfire or supernatural whispers from cursed artifacts urge reckless draws. Pull it only if committed. Fumbling with an unloaded gun leads to embarrassment burial near the outhouse amid mocking laughter. Your armament whispers, not worth the hassle. Not test me in this gritty ballet of power where peasants defy lordly sadists with cunning strikes and marginalised voices rise through defiant clashes. Survival hinges on the threat unspoken, the violence unflinching yet held in check. You sit by the flickering campfire shadows, dancing like conspirators in the night, but trust in the Wild West is as brittle as a whiskey bottle teetering on a poker table ready to shatter into shards that could slit a throat in a moment of betrayal. When a stranger saunters up introducing himself as Doc Dutch or Dusty, your hand inches toward your gun, for these monikers mask histories of deceit and danger, promising trouble that might end with you in a shallow grave, dirt clumped with the blood of the naive. Doc ain't no healer. Maybe he once skimmed a medical tome or yanked a bullet with a spoon amid screams, but more likely he's the hangover artist with steady hands for sinister deeds. Offer whiskey for pain and he's amputating limbs, perhaps mistakenly his eyes gleaming with sadistic glee under the guise of aid. Dutch. No ties to Holland. Just endless schemes that drag you into hayloft ambushes or hidden canyons, where knives flash and desires turn violent him, vanishing with your loot horse and a rehearsed sorry that stings like frostbite. Here's what we're gonna do, he drawls, and you bolt sensing the intrigue that could unravel your life. Dusty, unwashed since rope's invention, he knows trails tricks and posters with his face too friendly sharing beans by firelight guarding your mule, but blink and he's gone, boots rifle and a mocking thanks left behind, his touch lingering like a supernatural chill. Nicknames scream criminal pasts or bar fights etched in scars. Trust only full names nervously corrected for whiskey. Pete or Rattlesnake Joe has slain or schemed, convincing you to pull the trigger in morally grey shadows. Smile, nod, sleep with an eye open if Doc Dutch and Dusty converge, snatch the beans, douse the fire, and flee into the night where survival threads through, sensual sparks of defiance brutal, clashes over loyalty and the empathetic hum of human stubbornness against the frontier's savage embrace. You push through saloon doors, the air thick with smoke and tension like a lover's breath before a betrayal. But gambling in the Wild West ain't leisure. It's a ritual where pretenders grasp rules until guns bark, cards flying amid shouts, and the visceral crack of chairs splintering like bones. Faro reigns saloon darling. Least understood cards, bets chaos lose gradual or swift, your coin fueling another's whiskey haze. Poker's wild kin reared by wolves laced with aggression, dealer charming yet cheating his eyes, holding secrets that could spark a knife's flash in the dim light. The house triumphs eternally, luck strikes mute. Celebration flair invites envy, bullets chasing as intrigue boils perhaps over a disputed hand, hiding supernatural curses from folklore relics. Games sprawl, dice clattering like fate's teeth, knife-throwing wagers where blades sink into wood, or flesh-drinking contests teetering on death's edge, or guessing stews mysteries, all high-stakes folly, inadvisable as a midnight tryst with a rival spouse. Ultimate risk, marriage lifelong pact with a horse-scented soul scarred by bears, ceremony, hasty papers, absent fallout, epic love blooms, rare aliases, surface debts, Mount X's, brandish shotguns named for scorn. Wake horseless in-laws lingering like ghosts, no-no rules, sit out, stakes low, scrutinise they lurk beneath like hidden desires in a glance. Slim offers a fun lesson, eye the exit, stride away for everything's a wager here, commitment, most perilous threads of sensuality and heated bets, violence in lost fortunes. power dynamics where cunning peasants upend lordly cheats in defiant rebellion. You gaze across the vast prairie, the horizon shimmering like a mirage of lost desires. But the Wild West's weather ain't picturesque. It's a tempest of moods, atmospheric fury that can turn a clear day into a maelstrom of violence, where heat warps your vision and wind howls secrets of betrayal. Summer scorches not warmly, but hallucinatory boots melting into earth like wax under a sadist torch hat. A dome against the blaze that leaves you sweat-soaked canteen mocking your thirst body, damp yet desiccated concerned whispers of dehydration mingling with forbidden cravings sparked in the haze. Shades of fleeting prey often claimed by a rattlesnake coiled like a jealous lover, its fangs promising a venomous kiss. Wind doesn't breeze, it scours blasting sand into teeth coffee, soul exfoliating exposed skin to raw regret, locals calling it breeze, with the sarcasm of labelling a stampede a stroll. Rain, suspicious rarity, absent till it unleashes biblical wrath ground to soup tent a drowning pool roads, vanishing as mules panic boots waterproof, like sponges perhaps hiding a supernatural deluge from angered spirits. Winter's silent killer snow, not magical but assassinating blanketing without warning, burying routines in survival drama, water freezing fingers numb, naming firewood for companionship amid isolation's chill. Never trust azure skies, traps luring you out only for lightning to chase hail pelting like bullets or dust devils stealing hats and souls in whirlwinds of chaos. Endure it, sun bakes, wind peels, rain mocks, wardrobe forever wrong. Gear, sodden mood attuned to the whims, debunking cinematic romances where no hero dramatically rides off. But humans stubbornly persist, loving fiercely in heated shelters, fighting brutally against elements that mirror class tensions, empowering the defiant through savage resilience. You slip from the saloon's dim glow, the piano's notes fading like a lover's sigh, but in the Wild West farewells ain't theatrical, storms into sunsets with swelling scores, those fools get trailed, remembered perhaps gutted in the dark for grudges nursed like wounds. Real survivors vanish ghostly, no speeches, no lingering gazes, no final swig that might loosen tongues to betrayal. Settle tabs at dawn nod vaguely melt into the horizon with debts, secrets and survival's weight a pulse over legacy. Linger too long and you're marked like the man you resemble from a hated past owed coin, or sworn vengeance in a fevered card game best case, they covet your horse worst. A knife whispers across your throat in sleep's vulnerability. Signs scream departure piano halting as you enter sheriff probing origins. Again stranger coin flipping while eyeing boots with predatory intent saddle up quiet art of evasion. Pack pre-dawn silently abandon noisy trinkets or flammable ties. Goodbyes vague, business east, masking trade trouble or dread of breakfast bullets. Don't glance back, only regrets and poor shots linger there. Fames stay, fight carve names and tables, spin wolf-raised yarns. Survival past 40, ride unseen 3 towns away, sipping untainted coffee bed unmarked. Leave mid-chat, mid-drink, mid-meal, they ponder pursuit but shouldn't. For in this gritty saga, competence trumps interest. Courteous ghosts endure weaving motifs of forbidden hail-off passions. Cliffhangers of bloodshed, betrayals, defiant rises against overseers, all in empathetic rhythm of human tenacity. You ease into the saloon, big hats and booming voices clamouring like a storm's prelude. But distraction lies with the loudmouth spinning yarns of battling Apache's bounty hunters, and thunder before dawn ignore him. He'll bleed out by week's end, his bravado a mask for fragility. True peril lurks in the corner, the silent figure nursing a drink for hours unblinking since your arrival, carved from bark with eyes like shadowed abysses holding secrets of survival. He's weathered 5 shootouts where bullets sang through bone, 3 ambushes in moonlit canyons, and a marriage frayed by betrayal's knife, quiet not from timidity but conservation breath, saved for burying foes swiftly plains unfolding in the mind's dark recesses. Talkers ignite brawls with fiery words. Quiet ones conclude them efficient before the bartender ducks a blade's whisper ending the chaos. Stake silence for serenity. Fatal they gauge you count doorsteps, note squeaky boards know your gun's location better than you. Politeness veils violence. Yes ma'am precedes a shot through your soup if you reach wrong civility, a scabbard for savagery. Decline a drink, nod unsmiling hat indoors. Offer respect, caution no challenges, not poker horseshoes, nor chatter for cemeteries brim with boasters, while silent riders persist, threads of intrigue in their gaze, sensual undercurrents in withheld words, brutal power dynamics, where marginalised cunning topples lordly noise in defiant empathetic resilience. You stagger from the saloon world, spinning like a dust devil's whirl, but whiskey in the Wild West ain't mere libation. It's ethos alibi, courtroom plea for follies from wall-shot holes, to hazy weddings, or awakening pantsless by a cactus with a goat named Tobias, its eyes judging your regrets. Blame the bottle shot of wall whiskey, wed a stranger mid-poker whiskey, Dawn Sands trousers undeniably, Whiskey Frontiers dog at homeworker, accepted without qualm for no sage choices emerge from sunrise sips of firewater. Taste regrets burn honesty, scorching numbing senses, blurring recollections, transmuting idiocies to brilliance. Lip that ravine eye, trust tattooed browless stranger. Surely his gaze holding sensual promise turning treacherous. Whiskey equalizes rancher. Gunslinger mayor, third shot all slur tunes, wrestle, tables unite, fleetingly pre-chair flights, called on misconduct. Don't recall must have been whiskey, even sheriffs nod flask of deniability in pocket. Yet beware it defers woes, returning amplified grudge-laden rope in hand, morphing one drink to jailer's familiar call. Perhaps after a violent tavern clash ribs cracking, or intrigue-fueled betrayal in hayloft heat. Frontier creed, inconvenient truth, fault whiskey, freely facts bow to tales, morning's bruises, debts, half mule ventures. Yours alone raise glass, sips, scapegoat ready for whiskey, men's naught just dizzies you from life's fractures. Threads of raw realism debunking glory-defiant passions flaring amid savagery's empathetic hum. You drift through the dusty streets, a shadow among ghosts, but in the Wild West legends lure with glory until you witness their endings. Dramatic falls laced with pain, often from an enraged spouse's bullet or a rival's blade slicing through the night like a lover's final betrayal. To endure this frontier's savage embrace obscurity, be the nameless drifter who never claimed a dual victory, never heisted a bank amid gunfire's roar, never stirred saloon chaos with a heated glance or whispered intrigue. Live as vapour, die as whisper, evading the death sentence of fame that transforms your name into a dare for hot-blooded youth squinting under the sun, challenging at noon over a tall tale of your marksmanship. Outlaws with aliases, grace posters, heroes court showdowns where blood freezes on snow but the unremarkable soul-mending boots, tipping hat. Sans flare slips to the next town, unseen freedom not in fireworks but in unchased horizons. Skip engraving saloon tables withhold backstories of wolf-rearing or monk teachings. Head-low horse-fed, mouth-sealed, save for weather chat, that eternal killer anyway. Let glory chasers pose in sunsets, wax poetic on fast lives. Your town's away, coffee-free of gunpowder, tang bed unetched, competence your shield courtesy, your veil curiosity deflected. In this raw unfiltered realm, debunking nightly myths for blood and hunger's truth resilience, blooms through passion's fire and savagery's storm, empowering the overlooked to defy loving, fiercely fighting, brutally living defiantly against the lords of legend. You awaken in the opulent shadows of Alexandria's royal palace, the air heavy with incense and intrigue, where in 69 BCE a girl emerges into a world of divine whispers and deadly games. Cleopatra the seventh Philopasa, whose name evokes gods, but whose life begins amid chaos that would forge her into a storm of cunning and desire. Born to the Ptolemaic dynasty, Macedonian Greeks ruling Egypt since Alexander's conquest, they clad in pharaonic splendour, yet Greek at heart, a family tree twisted with sibling marriages and poisonings, where love and betrayal entwine like serpents in the Nile's depths. Picture halls echoing with plots, brothers stabbing sisters in the back, sisters dosing nephews with elixirs that burn like forbidden passions, servants averting eyes as power shifts in visceral clashes of ambition. Her father, Ptolemy the Stoiton, Auletus the flute player, prefers melodies to monarchy, bribing Roman senators with Egypt's gold till bankruptcy looms, fleeing mobs like a musician from flames, leaving 11-year-old Cleopatra to witness throne's fragility, her sharp mind absorbing lessons in survival savagery. Unlike ancestors aloof in Greek superiority, she masters Egyptian tongue, speaks to subjects in their vernacular styles as Isis, incarnate goddess of magic and motherhood, her form draped in silks that accentuate curves, drawing gazes laden with envy and lust. She devours astronomy, pharmacology, knowledge weapons in a patriarchal arena where women should demur, but she plots speeches, eyes on the crown, not as consort but sovereign. Behind gilded walls, political paranoia reigns. Kin's knives flash in candlelight, blood staining marble as class tensions simmer. Greeks lording over Egyptians, yet she embraces the land, empowering the marginalized with her voice. As civil war brews and Rome's shadow lengthens, this chaos-born girl readies to unleash her tempest threads of sensuality in her allure, violence in familial feuds, intrigue in every alliance, supernatural echoes in her divine claims, all weaving a tale of defiant resilience. You ascend the throne in 51 BCE, the weight of gold and expectation pressing like a lover's insistent embrace, but Cleopatra's co-rule with her 10-year-old brother-husband, Ptolemy the Titid, is a facade Rome-stamped will, forcing sibling union in the Ptolemaic tangle of incest and assassinations where family bonds snap like necks under the executioner's blade. She asserts dominance, swiftly coins minted with her face alone, a monarchic declaration, "This empire is mine." Her image radiating intelligence and allure that captivates and threatens, yet advises puppets to her brother's regent scheme in wine-scented shadows, exiling her from Alexandria. Within years, a cabal of toga-clad youths and ambitious elders casting out the 21-year-old queen, their eyeliner masking eyes hungry for power. No tears, no pleas she flees to Syria, rallying mercenaries with speeches that ignite loyalties like forbidden flames in the night, her form commanding respect and desire amid the camp's rough edges. Back in the palace, Ptolemy III's court festers with incompetence. Pothinus pulling strings on the boy king like a marionette in a deadly play, oblivious to Cleopatra's fury, her well-read mind plotting return with forces massed at Egypt's border, the Nile poised to flow with gold lies and severed limbs in civil war's brutal dance. Tensions peak as an uninvited shadow falls Julius Caesar, pursuing Pompey to Egyptian shores only to find him slain by Ptolemy's men, a gift, horrifying the Roman who craved control, not corpse. Cleopatra strategist, supreme sense, opportunity in Caesar's power. Rome's watchful eye, her lever to reclaim the throne, interrupting sibling strife with romance's intrigue and propaganda's blade, where sensuality weaves through political beds. Violence erupts in sieges. Supernatural divine claims bolster her defiance against patriarchal chains. You sense the tension in Alexandria's air, thick as a lover's breath, before a stolen kiss as Julius Caesar docks on Egyptian shores, his pursuit of Pompey ending in horror at the rival's severed head. A gift from Ptolemy's advisors that reeks of desperation and miscalculation. Caesar, battle-worn and politically ablaze, recoils not from the gore but the loss of control, his plans shattered like bones in a brutal skirmish. Cleopatra exiled yet unbowed spies. Her chance in this Roman titan, her mind a whirlwind of strategy where power and desire entwine. Knowing Rome craves cunning boldness, tales that ignite empires, she doesn't merely arrive, she orchestrates legend, a carpet or linen sack concealing her form unrolled in Caesar's quarters like a forbidden revelation, her 21-year-old allure contrasting his 52 years of scars and ambition. The air crackles with intrigue as she emerges, silks, clinging to curves that draw his gaze, her voice weaving Egyptian lore with seductive intellect, promising alliance laced with passion's heat. By dawn's light, he's not just captivated, but pledged stationing in the palace, proclaiming neutrality in the sibling war. While tilting scales her way, Dinner's shared strategies murmured in shadowed halls, where touches linger igniting flames against the frost of political exile. Ptolemy fumes across the Nile, his army restless as betrayal simmers the stage set for war's visceral eruption. Threads of sensuality in their union violence in impending sieges, supernatural divinity in her Isis guise, defiant empowerment against patriarchal thrones. You feel the palace walls tremble under Ptolemy's assault, the Alexandrian War, igniting like a lover's quarrel turned savage, where Ptolemy's forces encircle the royal enclave, trapping Caesar and his meagre Roman garrison alongside Cleopatra's loyalists, in a siege of months' hunger gnawing like unspoken betrayals. Caesar committed beyond intrigue commands, with ferocity ordering harbour fires to secure lines. Flames devouring ships and perhaps the library's edges, a conflagration mirroring the passion blazing between him and the queen, their nights stolen amid chaos bodies entwining in heated defiance against the encircling doom. Ptolemy's boyish rage fuels the onslaught. Arrows whistling like whispers of treachery, skirmishes erupting in blood-soaked streets where blades clash, and limbs sever the Nile running red with the fallen. Cleopatra, no passive figure, strategizes beside Caesar, her mind a weapon sharper than any sword empowering the marginalized soldiers, with speeches that stir souls, her divine Isis aura, weaving supernatural threads into the fray, warding off despair like a cursed relic's glow. Neutrality abandons Caesar, favours her openly, their bond a scandalous fusion of politics and desire, where sensual murmurs in the siege's lulls contrast the violence outside ribs, cracking under boots in brutal melees, intrigue deepening as allies waver. The war grinds on human resilience, shining through savagery, loving fiercely in shadowed alcoves, fighting unflinchingly against patriarchal chains, defiant threads connecting to broader power dynamics in this empathetic saga of survival. You imagine the hush in Caesar's quarters, the air charged with anticipation like a storm's breath, where Cleopatra orchestrates her legendary ingress, rolled in a carpet or bundled in linen unfurling before him. Like a forbidden blossom, her entrance a masterstroke of drama that infects history with gossip and artistry's flourish. At 21, she radiates youthful fire. The 52 bears the weight of civil war's exhaustion, etching lines that her gaze softens with seductive intellect. Fresh from Roman strife, politically volatile palace, intrigue the last thing on his mind, yet she knows his ilk. Rome reveres audacity narratives that seduce as surely as a lover's touch. Their first exchange seals fate not mere intrigue but commitment. He stations in Alexandria, neutrality professed while favouritism flows, dining with her as Ptolemy seethes across the city, his army a restless serpent. The air hums with sensuality, the brush of her hand whispers laden with promise. Amid political chess, her embrace of Egyptian ways a defiant thread against Greek aloofness. Violence looms as Ptolemy's forces besiege, but in this moment her boldness captivates, weaving supernatural divinity into human desire, empowering the marginalized queen in patriarchal shadows. You stand amid Egypt's teetering brink, civil war's flames licking the horizon like a lover's urgent caress. Rome's ambition a looming shadow that Cleopatra navigates with mind sharper than any blade her beauty. A legend's exaggeration, true power in intellect, voice and unyielding survival instinct. She rejects consort's veil, claiming Pharaoh's mantle, embracing Egypt's soul, speaking its language, embodying Isis in rituals, where divine aura blends with sensual allure, drawing subjects' devotion amid class tensions of Greek overlords and native undercurrents. Her studies astronomy to poisons arm her for enemies' onslaughts, where familial betrayals teach paranoia, yet she walks the viper's nest, eyes open, seizing power with cunning that defies patriarchal chains. As sibling strife escalates her exile births, an army mercenaries swayed by speeches igniting loyalties like forbidden passions, Caesar's arrival interrupts with romance's intrigue their union, a strategic blaze where desire fuels alliance violence in Siege's blood, supernatural in her goddess claim, warding foes like cursed wards. In this empathetic saga, resilience shines, loving fiercely through betrayals, fighting brutally for throne-defiant threads, empowering the overlooked in power's savage game. You wander through the labyrinthine courts of caliphs and the bustling souks of Baghdad, where the air hums with melodies that weave through silk-draped halls and dust-choked streets. The medieval Islamic world, a symphony of sound born from conquests and caravans blending Persian elegance, Arab passion, Byzantine intricacy and echoes of ancient Greece into a tapestry rich with spiritual depth and mathematical precision. Music isn't mere diversion here. It's a bridge between the divine and the earthly, a pulse that stirs the soul's longing, evoking the sensual sway of dances in shadowed alcoves, or the violent clash of rhythms mimicking battles where blades sing through bone. From the Golden Age's zenith, scholars and Sufis alike delve into its mysteries, treating it as science and sacrament, where notes align with cosmic harmonies healing humours, or igniting ecstasies that border on the supernatural whispers of jinn, perhaps guiding the strings. In opulent palaces under brass chandeliers flickering like forbidden desires, musicians perform for kings whose whims could elevate to gold or condemn to exile's knife. In markets, raw tunes spill from flutes and drums carrying tales of love's betrayal, or heroic feuds empowering the common folk with voices that defy lordly overseers. This era's music fuses culture's Persian modes with Arab rhythms, Indian inflections sneaking in via trade routes laden with spices and secrets, creating Makamat scales that evoke moods from melancholy to martial fury, IQA patterns pounding like hearts in trance. Yet debates rage, conservative scholars decry it as distraction from prayer, while Sufis embrace it as path to divine union, a moral ambiguity threading through where a melody might soothe a patient's fever or lure a listener into intrigue's web. Immerse yourself in this world where music reflects unified knowledge, medicine, metaphysics, mathematics intertwined, debunking simplistic views of swords and minarets, for a civilization exporting sound as potent as scripture, resilient threads of sensuality in breathy flutes, violence in thunderous drums, defiant empowerment in women's ceremonial beats, all in empathetic rhythm of human creativity. You cradle the oud in your arms, its pear-shaped body warm against your chest like a lover's curve in the lamplight, this king of strings reigning supreme in the medieval Islamic world's ensembles, its deep resonant voice evoking the soul's depths amid courts where intrigue simmers and streets pulse with life's raw vigour. Born from Persian barbet, refined in Baghdad's workshops, the oud Arabic for wood features a vaulted back of walnut or rosewood strips bent under steam's heat, a fretless neck of ebony or ivory, allowing microtones that weave sensual arabesques, strings of gut or silk plucked with a plectrum carved from eagle quill, each note trembling with vulnerability and power. Its construction demands mastery wood, aged like secrets, body hollowed to amplify echoes of ancient laments. 11 strings tuned in courses evoking cosmic ratios and mathematical poetry where intervals heal or incite. In performances, the oud anchors its timbre rich and woody, capable of melancholy whispers or fierce declarations, as in Ziryab's Andalusian court, where the exiled virtuoso added a 5th string symbolising life's quintessence. His innovations, seasonal modes, etiquette blending art with life's intrigue, perhaps masking plots in melodic codes, Sufis see it as metaphor for the hollowed self filled by divine breath's supernatural whispers guiding fingers to ecstasy's edge, while in ensembles it dialogues with flutes and drums, rhythms pounding like hearts in violent trances. Copied across realms, it births Europe's lute, a legacy of cultural fusion, where women's hands pluck in private salons empowering voices in patriarchal veils. Feel its pull, this instrument, not just played, but lived threads of sensuality in vibrating strings, violence in martial strains, defiant resilience against critics' bans, empathetic bridge across classes in the Golden Age's harmonious storm. You position the kanun on your lap, its trapezoidal form a gateway to precision and passion in the medieval Islamic symphony, where this zither-like marvel, born from Persian and Byzantine roots, enchants with 72 gut strings stretched over a resonant box of walnut or sycamore, each note plucked by finger rings tipped with plectra, evoking the mathematical dance of the cosmos. Tuned in quarter tones via intricate levers mandals that allow swift shifts between Makamat, the kanun, demands mastery over microtonal nuances, its sound crystalline yet warm, capable of cascading arpeggios that mimic waterfalls or thunderous chords, echoing violent storms, a versatility that made it indispensable in ensembles from Baghdad's courts to Andalusian salons. Scholars like Al-Farabi dissected its physics in treatises linking string ratios to healing harmonies that soothe anxieties or stir desires, a scientific spirituality where playing becomes philosophical fingers tracing paths of divine order amid intrigue's shadows, perhaps a melody concealing coded messages and colourful plots. In performance it provides structural backbone, dialoguing with Aud's depth or Ney's breath rhythms, interlocking like lovers in forbidden embrace, empowering female musicians in private gatherings where their plucks defy patriarchal silence. Its legacy spreads, influencing European harpsichords, preserved in modern fusions, threads of sensuality in vibrating strings, violence in martial modes, defiant resilience against Puritan critiques, empathetic unity in the Golden Age's melodic cosmos. You press the ney to your lips, its simple reed form a vessel for the soul's whispers in the medieval Islamic world, this ancient flute with 7 holes breathing melancholic tones that transcend music into mysticism, contrasting the oud's dazzle with a haunting vulnerability that evokes human longing for divine union. Predating Islam, it flourishes in Persia and Anatolia, embraced by Sufis as metaphor hollow, fragile animated by player's breath like the soul by God's love. Rumi's Mathnawi opening with its lament of separation from the reed bed, turning it into spiritual icon, notes trembling with raw effort, angled breath-shaped lips, lifetime discipline, yielding sounds that reduce listeners to introspective silence. In ensembles, it offers poignant contrast to pluck strings, sharpness solos, in Sufi summer ceremonies blending prayer and performance-inducing trances where ecstasy borders supernatural, perhaps jinn whispers guiding the melody. Variations spread Maghreb's adaptations, Ottoman classical roles essential across traditions, yet uniquely itself too alive for mass production masters' hands telling personal tales. Threads of sensuality and breathy sighs, violence in pained wails mimicking battle's cries, defiant empowerment for marginalised voices in ritual's empathetic bridge to the unseen in the Golden Age's harmonious tapestry. You strike the frame, drum its beat resonating through your palms like a heartbeat in the throes of passion or battle, where in the medieval Islamic world rhythm isn't mere timekeeper but sculptor of emotion. The Daf and Rik embodying this pulse in courts of Baghdad, Cairo's markets, and desert caravans rolling under starlit skies. Ancient as humanity, the frame, drum, a wooden circle taut with animal skin played with fingers palms, even fists in visceral bursts, variants like Daf or Bendir across Persia. Iraq, North Africa, some ringed with metal or snares, adding textures like sand footsteps or rattlesnake warnings, their sounds evoking breezes or thunder, a mathematical intricacy in IQA cycles defining mood dance poetry. The Rik refined tambourine demands care. Small frame goatskin head, brass cymbals in sets of 5 light yet potent simulating storms or whispers in masters' hands underpinning Arabic music's rhythms, not beats but patterns with personality. Stately samai, lively maksum, hypnotic wahda. Drummers conduct feeling, a pause, signals dramatic hush. Flurries lift a trance, Sufi rituals summoning ecstasy where beats merge with supernatural whispers, perhaps jinn dancing in the echoes. Women wield them in weddings, births, festivals blending personal with public, empowering voices in domestic spheres amid patriarchal veils. Percussion's impact travels to Europe via Spain, Sicily, infusing Renaissance pulses like spices where without rhythm melody drifts, but with Darfuric music breathes measured, sacred alive. Threads of sensuality in swaying hips, violence in thunderous clashes, defiant resilience in communal beats. You enter the shimmering courts of caliphs and kings, rosewater-scented air heavy with anticipation like a lover's gaze where music elevates from art to opulent expression in cultural crucibles, blending poets, scholars, musicians under brass chandeliers, a fusion of intellect and emotion in the Abbasid splendour of Baghdad under Harun al-Rashid, beacon of patronage, where Ishaq al-Mawsili refines performance theory composition, evening stage strategic spectacles lasting into night, a song earning gold or exile depending on the caliph's whim, musicians as polymaths debating poetry, astrology, metaphysics, mid-melody instruments, polished as rhetoric balancing technical prowess with emotional acuity, not just skill, but philosophy in every note. Westward Al-Andalus courts in Cordoba, Seville exalt music to political tongue, Syria, Baghdad exile, reshaping life with modes, wardrobes, manners, a virtuoso, dictating dessert etiquette post 5-string play. His influence, a web of intrigue where music impresses ambassadors, seduces rivals, displays intellectual wealth over treasury. Orchestras of dozens master makamat and IK women prominent in private majlis, enslaved courtesans trained in poetry etiquette, their kyans prized for wit, artistry flattering or critiquing veiled in verses amid patriarchal constraints, empowering through subtle agency. Courts generate art music mirroring and wielding power behind thrones, attuned awaits threads of sensuality, in melodic caresses, violence in rhythmic storms, defiant resilience in women's voices, empathetic unity in the Golden Age's harmonious realm. You meander through dusty souks and bazaars, the clamour of blacksmiths and camels blending with spontaneous melodies that pulse raw and rhythmic, where in the medieval Islamic world music thrives beyond court's polish, in streets' vitality, unscripted and loud, carrying life's essence in portable flutes, drums, rababs, scratchy fiddles, evoking gossiping neighbours or lovers' quarrels. Travelling minstrels, prose or beggars strum for coins with ballads of romances, betrayal parables, or satirical jabs at politicians. Heroic tales empowering the common amid class tensions where merchants hum setting stalls, children chant lessons, camel drivers rhythmically coordinate journeys, music mnemonic for values history, daily cycles of wake-pray rest. Religious strains weave nuance Adhan's melodic call to prayer, not strictly music, yet contouring regionally, invoking sacred, 5 times daily from minarets, a hypnotic invocation. Sufi traditions infuse mosques with Sama spiritual concerts of chants, recitations, instruments bridging seen and unseen, goal self-annihilation in divine ecstasy, Ney and Daf as conduits to supernatural realms. Critics abound, conservatives like Ibn Taymiyyah decry distraction from discipline, debating halal versus haram instruments, rules varying by era, region, ruler. Yet music persists, spilling into weddings' joyous beats, processions' marches, harvests' thanks, funerals' laments echoing alleys and balconies. While scholars debate, people play sensuality in swaying dances, violence in rhythmic echoes of battles, defiant empowerment for women in ceremonial roles, empathetic fusion of doctrine and daily rhythm in the Golden Age's vibrant hum. You delve into manuscripts in Baghdad's libraries or Toledo's observatories where medieval Islamic scholars elevate music to science, probing with rigour akin to astronomy or algebra. Sound measured, theorised, harnessed for healing in a worldview unifying knowledge. Al-Farabi's Kitab al-Musiki al-Kabir maps sound's physics, Makamat's emotional impacts, melody's spiritual effects, philosophy, geometry, psychology, intertwined intervals reflecting cosmic order. Avicenna's Canon of Medicine prescribes tunes to balance humours, ease anxiety, aid digestion, harmonics as therapy predating modern playlists. Hospitals employing musicians to calm patients, perhaps soothing fevers with Ney's breath or Canon's cascades. Tied to mathematics following Pythagoras harmony, mirrors universes' ratios, string lengths, vibrations, tones as divine reflection instruments crafted with architectural precision, every oud or kanun a strummed formula. Theory books in Arabic, Persian, Ottoman flourish. Diagrams, arguments, notations on scales, rhythms, moods, health, morality. This synthesis accidental, no knowledge holistic medicine music. Metaphysics harmonies in God's song, sensuality in melodic caresses, healing body and soul, violence in discordant clashes, mirroring battles. Defiant resilience in preserving ancient wisdom, empathetic bridge across disciplines in the Golden Age's enlightened chorus. You trace the caravans and sea routes carrying medieval Islamic music beyond borders, its melodies journeying like whispers of intrigue across conquests and exchanges instruments, theories, rhythms infusing distant lands with the Golden Age's spirit, divine, mathematical, alive. Through Al-Andalus, Islamic Spain's melting pot of Muslim, Christian, Jewish harmonies, cities like Cordoba, Granada, Seville become conduits, oud evolves to lute central in Renaissance airs, Ika patterns seep into troubadour traditions, Makamat whispering into European modes, Kanun shapes harpsichord dulcimer, Rabab bows toward violin, Ney-frame drums echo in Balkan Central Asian folk, and religious rites are cultural osmosis where sensuality in swaying dances meets violence in martial echoes. Influence flows, bidirectional absorbing Greek, Persian, Indian, Turkic ideas. The Islamic world repositories sound, preserving, expanding ancient lore via theorists' tomes. Today in Turkey, Egypt, Iran, Morocco, Andalusia, classical folk roots thrive at beloved Kanun Ney, taught revered. Contemporary fusions blend electronic beats with ancient Makamat beat, persisting with historical depth. Remarkable unity across continents, centuries, music retains core improvisation, structured spirituality, scientific emotion disciplined not performance alone, but meaning a potent export rivaling steel or scripture threads of defiant resilience in cultural defiance, empathetic connections and shared harmonies. You listen to echoes resounding through time where the medieval Islamic world's music, often overshadowed by swords and minarets, emerges as profound export sound, crafted by breath and string, preserved in memory's vault 1,000 years later, vibrating not in museums, but living melodies speaking across eras. Most direct imprint on Europe via Al-Andalus oud to lute rhythms into troubadour verse kanun, to harpsichord rabab to violin ney, and drums in folk contexts from Balkans to Asia, a legacy woven into Western fabric like spices and stew. Bi-directional absorbing diverse influences becoming global sound archive theorists, safeguarding enhancing knowledge with mathematical precision and spiritual depth. Tradition endures in modern lands, classical and folk persist oud strummed canon plucked ney breathed. Artists fuse with electronics Makamat, pulsing in new forms, historical roots deep. Unity astonishes, spanning vastness, music holds intellectual essence. Improvisation, disciplined spirituality, scientific emotion, structured meaning over spectacle sensuality, in breathy calls, violence in rhythmic storms, defiant empowerment in women's beats, empathetic human thread in the Golden Age's harmonious legacy.